If you're ever confused as to why SoStocked is telling you to place this order or transfer amount, here is the formula. Here's the steps that you go through to diagnose where this number, how this number is being come up with and why it's this number exactly. So first of all, this number, if you haven't done it already, please go through our onboarding mini course. I always want to put that plug in. Watch the how to set up your forecast, which goes over how the forecasting actually works. But for this specific video, what we want to do is we want to look at a couple things here. The main things that affect this are a combination of your velocity, whether it's the adjusted velocity here, right? Whether it's the velocity calculation, manual velocity, or last year's sales. So that's the first factor, but that's not the only factor. So a lot of times people are just like, well, I'm selling, 17 units a day, and why is it telling me to order 1,500? Well, there's a lot more math involved in that, right? So first of all, we got to look at the velocity calculations. Your MOQ would play a part in that, your minimum order quantity, if it's an order, or minimum transfer quantity, if it's a blue transfer button. Units per carton definitely plays a role with that. This has to be divisible by the number of units per carton. Your lead time plays a role, because how long does it take to get there? Right? If it takes 67 days to get there, we have to take that into account to determine how many to order, so that if you're trying to, meet a certain order schedule, things like that. Also transfer time. For this specific one, what I want to do is how to verify why it's coming up with this number, and if you're using min-max stock levels. So check this out. So we go in here, and again, this video should only be watched if you've already gone through the mini course. This is a more advanced video, more of a troubleshooting video. So I'm assuming that you've already gone through how to set up your forecast. All right, close that out. Okay, so let's say here, this order is going to a warehouse because my lead time says I'm sending everything to my 3PL. So why 1509? Where does that number come from? Okay, so first of all, your minimum stock at the warehouse is 10. Your maximum is 60 days, okay? What you should do is download and export your forecast here. Now, every forecast has its own export based on all of these settings, based on this particular velocity, based on daily, weekly, monthly. Right now, I leave it on daily so we can get very specific. So let's go open up this forecast and take a look at it. So here is the forecast in a CSV or Excel document. Now what I want to do is I'm going to just highlight the top row, and I'm also going to lock the top row, freeze panes, and then I'm going to expand this just to make it a little bit easier to read. Okay, so what we have here is the orders to the warehouse in chronological order, current inventory, take FBA action, so any transfers, or if I'm ordering direct to FBA, they will show up here. You can see this inventory gets to the warehouse and I immediately transfer it. My current FBA inventory per day going into the future, my daily velocity by day, date obviously, minimum, maximum buffer stock both for warehouse and for FBA. IPI threshold is not really being used anymore. Let's just delete that. That's an old Amazon tool that we don't use anymore, because now we're using restock limits. And this would be, if I had the restock limits tool on and I were using it, this would be how much I can ship based on my restock limits. But what I really want to focus on here is the min-max buffer stock at the warehouse. So look here, right? It says 1,037 units maximum. Where does that number come from? I will show you exactly. So what that is that is taking this number here, maximum 60 days, and multiplying that, but basically adding 60 days from today. So today's April 6th. If you look at my daily velocity and we go 60 days in the future, so I'm on line number 2, so I'm going to go to line number 61. All right, so 60 days in the future. If I were to add up these 61 lines, you can see it's 1037. And that is what this number is based on. It's the next 60 days, or whatever my maximum level is, or minimum if I'm looking at the minimum. Minimum would be 172, maximum would be 1037. Now, this is very important because as your velocity changes, my warehouse stock is going to change, because every single day, notice how this one's different. It's not just this number multiplied by 60. It's 60 days from this day forward. the subsequent 60 days, not just this number times 60. Very, very important. This confuses people and it's not very complicated. If I scroll down, look here where I get into my seasonal spikes. So let's jump over here for a second. If I scroll down here, I've got some seasonal spikes added. Seasonal spike in the summer, seasonal spike at Christmas. This is from June 15th through the end of July. So if I scroll down on my timeline, you can see starting June 15th, I'm adding an additional 17.29 units because it's a 100% increase. So all that has to be taken into account on my spreadsheet here. So you have to take all that into account when figuring out why is it telling me 1509. But I just wanted to show you how to diagnose those, and it's very important to use the export.